Welcome, everyone. I am Opiate, and this is OP Gaming. Today we're playing Curse of the Dead Gods, the latest release from French developers PassTech Games, who you may know from their work on Masters of Anima, Space Run, and Space Run Galaxy. Curse of the Dead Gods is a roguelite where you seek fortune and power by attempting to traverse a temple labyrinth, gaining currency to make your journey more bearable, and avoiding the ever-looming curses. I'm not usually a fan of roguelite games. They seem to be made in the vein of the Souls-type games, providing a challenge that I have a hard time pushing through. I mean, I like challenge, but with these games they often feel artificially difficult. Like fondant on wedding cakes. Sure, it looks nice, and the thought of a clean-looking cake is really appealing. But have you ever tried to eat it? It's awful. Opening up, there's a short tutorial explaining the basics of combat, movement, and some of the bigger concepts that are going to have a direct impact on your adventure. First, you're allowed 3 weapons: primary, secondary, and a 2-hand. Throughout your time, you'll find that these can have up to 4 different attributes each, although in the early rounds, they probably won't have any. Next, you have relics. These are passives that offer small ways to affect your progression. They vary from allowing lower gold cost, lower blood sacrifice, or even allowing certain parameters to trigger actions, like healing when you pass through a door. Conversely, you have curses. In the bottom of the screen, you have a corruption bar. As you fight through the temple, the bar fills and results in a curse. The curses are also passive, like the relics, but of course offer negative effects, like no light from your torch, or having the temple randomly flip to a mirrored version of itself. Along with gold you find lying around everywhere, you'll also encounter crystal skulls and jade rings. These are the primary currencies you bring back to make your Indiana Jones LARPing a little easier. The crystal skulls can be used to activate blessings, which are another form of passive that typically have larger effects, like starting with gold or bosses dropping additional loot on death. The skulls can also open altars at your starting point, as well as determine the rarity of the starting weapons. They can also buy what's called divine favors, which are essentially just a shuffle option when you come across an altar inside the temple and you don't like the options that it gives you. The jade rings are used to open different weapons in the game, more specifically opening them to increase their appearance throughout the temple. There are a few from every class, and they range from simple elemental and poison damage to advanced attributes like suggesting enemy damage will result in death. As you begin the excursion into the temple, you're shown a map that allows you to choose your route. You can choose to go for all gold or all weapon upgrades, or you can even choose the question mark for some real RNG. Now, if I'm going to nitpick about the things I don't like in this game, it's always going to be RNG. Making it through each of the passages is fun, but when it comes to fighting the bosses, or more specifically, finding the best weapons to fight the bosses with, it turns into an RNG nightmare. Using the currency allows the weapon of choice to enter the loot pool, but it never guarantees you'll actually see it. Because of this, at least in my time playing, I often just restarted, as opposed to trying to fight and win with weapons or relics that serve no real purpose. It brings me back to why I typically never play roguelike games. The constant restarting is fine as a general game mechanic. It just becomes tedious when the combination of poor rolls is the majority. Do I like random mapping? Of course, as long as I have the tools to make it through. Do I like randomized weapons? I mean, it's not a deal breaker, but if I'm using currency to unlock the weapon, I want to see it favored in the RNG pool. Do I want the combination of maps with higher difficulty rolls, weapons I don't care for, and relics that are endgame useless? Never. I mean, it brings up a bigger question about how to manage RNG and where the line is that separates fun and engagement of good rolls from the feeling of artificial bad luck. But I digress. Overall, I'd give this a 9 out of 10. It's not my cup of tea per se, but I can't knock the game because I don't particularly enjoy the style. This game is super polished, and aside from my personal gripes with the genre as a whole, I did have fun playing it. PassTech did a brilliant job. I spent around 6 hours in the game, and I've completed right around half of the temple. But given the incline in difficulty, I can only imagine that, especially with my bad luck, it'll take at least another 6 hours to finish. Of course, there's also still weapons and altars and favors to unlock, so there's more than enough to keep me occupied. Down below you'll find all the links to all the things: dev page, game page, background music, as well as my Twitch, in case you want to come by and conversate about some of the bigger questions in the gaming world. As always, I am Opiate. Thanks for stopping by.